Hello, everybody, and welcome to Clarity House. So our topic today is going to be, we're just going to really just discuss, number one, I could have mentioned this before, and I will have not gone into with this detail, but I may have mentioned this phenomena before. The thing is that this unit pretty much talks all the time, so I can't really recall the difference between what I've said in private session, what I have said in satsang, and what I have said in these never-ending videos. So you'll have to excuse me if I repeat myself, but if I do, remember, that's a good thing, because repetition is the mother of clarity. And I promise you, that's absolutely true. I had a very awake student this week tell me, we were going into, she's a teaching student, right? I have a teaching course, and this is a woman that was in it, and that is in it. She's a spiritual teacher, and a good one. And we got through with our mock inquiry, and she looked and she said, "Oh my God, I can't believe it." She said, I mean, we went through that, and I was just really expecting to kind of get the word track or whatever, but I understand that from a completely different place now. In other words, I know that I've talked with this woman about this before, about what we're going to talk about, or whatever I was talking to her about, because I only got one thing to say. I just got a lot of different ways to say it. It's a real lucky unit, you know. I mean, there's one thing going on and you're it. I mean, that's the shortcut, right? And it doesn't mean it's the absolute truth, but it means it's a shortcut to something that's so similar that it's good enough for most. So the phenomena that I want to talk about is the fact that in this teaching, I am, number one, it's growing like a weed, so thank you very much for your support. And the other thing is that I'm getting more and more already awakened students, people who have had an awakening experiences, sometimes even not so famous spiritual teachers, but people who've had awakening experiences and who are being helpful generally. Sometimes they're just hermits and they're being helpful that way, but sometimes there's an active helpfulness in the community. In other words, they're teaching, and there's nothing wrong with them teaching. They know more than, or they know less than probably anybody that's in the room with them, and so it's useful for them to teach. And many of them do not even recognize where they're teaching from, so there's not like there's any underhanded business going on. But where a lot of these folks will be teaching from actually is memory. And because this ongoing experience of I'm awake now, I'm awake now, I'm awake now, it's a very difficult thing to maintain until it's recognized that there's no maintaining it, that you don't have to, you can't, and you don't have to. But that's somewhere down the road for most of us. And but this phenomena of people that have had awakening experiences, some of them quite profound, some of them numerous, sometimes just one big one or a couple. But what I find over there is that the reason they're coming here is that there is a lot of inherent wakefulness. Like I can feel it right off. I mean, I can just tell it right at the beginning of the session. Oh, okay. So and what I'm recognizing is what I'm going to call wakefulness. It doesn't mean that that person is presently at the top of their game, if you just will excuse the phrase. But what it does mean is that they have seen the truth, and there's an ongoing imprint, but it's an imprint. It's not an ongoing experience, but there's an ongoing imprint of that truth that they have seen. In other words, they know what is true They just can't remember quite what that is, but they remember what it looks like. They remember what it feels like to some extent, and they can be very helpful in helping you move on down the road. But the problem is the core of the teaching, there's just not too much happening. A friend of mine that I talked to yesterday told me that he watches a fairly well-known teacher, and because he loves his satsangs, he just loves listening to him because he finds it entertaining while he's doing other things around the house. But what he did was he noticed this week as he was listening to that satsang that the guy was just going nowhere, and that he wasn't bringing anybody home. So it doesn't mean that setup can't be useful, that context can't be useful. It can be. And keeping people's eyes open to this and now and attention and alertness and all of that and awakeness, if you can direct them and even direct them a little bit in that direction, you're doing them a huge favor. You're doing a lot of good. So I'm not in any way discounting anybody's teaching. I'm not going to do that. What I am saying, well, I'm discounting it to the fact that we have to look at how effective. That's all I'm interested in the end, is what works. What works. I do not subscribe to any non-dual philosophy, because if I subscribe to any non-dual philosophy, including non-duality itself as we know it, then I can be told what is and what isn't, and what can happen and what can't happen, what's real and what's not real, and all of this, that, and the other. And that's not my actual experience. So non-duality, when I use that phrase, it's a marketing term, and don't recoil from that. It just means that that's the way that I reach you, is through that, because the people who are interested in non-duality are closer to what I'm doing than anybody else in the world, except for those people who are waking up in different traditions. So the non-duality, though, as I see it in the marketplace today, is what I see that there are many paths and schools, right? Not just paths, but schools of thought, schools of philosophy, and with lineages and all this and that and the other. And that what they know is they have the path to awakening for you. They're going to pave the road to awakening that you've been slogging down all this time. And what I have come to see, just as I came to see several times this week with new people, and one time with somebody that's been with me a little bit, is that there is no path to awakening. I swear to God, there's just not. There's no path to awakening. Now, there's the no path that you're on, and it feels like a path, but it's not actually a path. You're just wandering around, and most often you're wandering around in a circle, right? Like a hamster, a hamster wheel, just going around in a circle. And sometimes we go around in that circle and we notice, wow, this is getting easier. I like this circle. And we're going around in a circle, and then we come around it 3 or 4 times, and then we notice, hey, you know what? This is really nothing to this. I mean, I think I could teach going around in a circle. And so they jump in and they teach you how to go around in the circle, which is often what was taught to them. And it passes on and on and on. But then there is the teacher, and they are out there. Then there is the teacher who is really telling you the truth, but you can't hear it. And it's not their fault, and it's not your fault. It's nobody's fault, because there's nothing wrong. That's just the way it is. They're supposed to speak in exactly the way that they're doing so, and you're supposed to not be able to hear it until you can hear it. Repetition is the mother of clarity. Many things will be seen on the umpteenth time, not the first time. That's all. Spiritual teachings are layered, and this one confesses to being layered. in the sense that I will teach you provisional truths. I'll teach you this, and then when you get to a certain point, I'll say, well, see, it's not just that, it's also this, or it's not that, it's this over here. And then when you get there, then I say, well, you know, there's one more thing that we need to look at. Because that's the way that that this unit teaches, and it's found to be helpful. But what is happening now is that I'm getting very little time to spend in session with, in like clarity sessions with new people. I just don't really have much time. I may not even offer those much longer. I thought this week I was going to take them away, and I just couldn't do it. But because I'm really, really busy training teachers, and I'm really busy cutting videos and running a website, and I am really busy working with the students that I already have, some of whom have been with me for years, and whom I love, like just like I love myself, because they are myself, and I know it and they know it, and it's a beautiful relationship. And when I meet with them, it's not work. It's just, we're just leaning over the fence talking. That's the truth. And that makes it very comfortable for me. And I need that between some of these more intense sessions, like teacher to teacher sessions can be pretty intense. And awakening sessions always have there's always the potential for intensity there. But the awake ones who are coming to me now, and many of them are coming to me through awakening sessions, God bless them, which is because there has been a recognition that I know what will be thought will be, I know I'm awake, but, right? That will be the thought. And that but is what brings them to me. And because they will listen to this and they will hear a clarity that they don't have yet. And and so they'll be drawn to come to see this at a deeper level. And what I find is I find this inherent wakefulness, but I do not find clarity. And when I work with people that have an awakening session with me, for instance, oftentimes I'm sure there will be the arising of that wakefulness. There will be an awakening experience. That wakefulness will stay in the neighborhood for a while, and then if attention is not continued, if attention does not continue to pay attention to itself, then at some point that's going to start to wane. The other shoe will drop. And I've heard another spiritual teacher that very much respect use that exact same term, and boy, it's the perfect term. Other times I wake people up in awakening sessions, they write me weeks or months or years later and they're still awake. I mean, it's not like I have anything to do with that. It's always oneness's call as to how sharp an awakening session is going to be. Even with the skillfulness of the unit, where'd that come from? I mean, it didn't come from Fred. There is no Fred. And even if there was a Fred, he certainly is not skillful enough to have put together the living method of awakening. I can guarantee you that. He was never that clever on any day of his life, even though he hasn't really lived. But experientially, let's say he has an experience to that sort of thing. When you have this wakefulness that I'm speaking of, then you know that you're awake, but there's something that you're missing. And you may not have even noticed that you were missing it until now, although you may have suspected it for a long time. The fact that you might or might not feel like a fraud will have nothing to do with it, because if somebody doesn't feel like a fraud, I've got like a teacher doesn't feel a bit of fraudness, I don't want anything to do with them because they're taking credit. Whereas over here, I know that this is an imposter. It's a lucky unit. That would be my first advice for how to wake up. It really would be. Get lucky. I don't know any better way to put it. You can call it grace if you want to, but it looks like luck to me. It doesn't look like it was bestowed on this one and this one and this one and not that one and that one and that one, because there's nothing special about this unit. The only reason it's even useful is the fact that out of all this arrogance, there is somehow a willingness to live ordinarily, live as a regular old human being, and to confess that I don't have anything to do with this, right? In other words, it just comes through. It's just a vessel. And it's quite literally a vessel, like a pipeline. And what happens is, because of this ordinariness here, not because of the specialness, I promise you, but because of the ordinariness here, the Tao is able to flow through this unit pretty much friction-free. I'm not saying that there's no resistance here, no restrictions, anything like that, or a sense of restriction in the body or something, that there's never a sense of individuality. There is from time to time. I don't pay any attention to it much. I don't believe it ever, except for when I do for a very little while. But with the sense of wakefulness, there'll be the knowledge, the inherent knowledge of the truth, but there's something missing. And what is missing is that they have missed the heart of their own awakening. That's what's happened. They've had an awakening experience. They have seen the truth. The truth has unveiled itself to them, so to speak. We're just using language here. We're not telling the truth. So to speak, it unveils itself to itself, right? And itself is coming through individual human beings within our relative world, within, non-dual police, go find somewhere else to haunt. Using language that I'm hoping people can actually understand, which is, to me, is more important than being correct. Odd as that may sound. I'm only interested in what works, and we can call it what you want. We can call it non-duality. We can call it Judaism. We can call it hot dogism. I don't care. I just am interested in what works and what actually frees. And when I look about, I don't see a lot out there that is really freeing. I see a lot out there that moves people along the path. I don't see many. I don't see much of actual freedom coming from it. We're going to talk about that in another video, which will be something to the effect of why satsangs, books, and videos don't work very well. So you can keep your eye out for that video. I've got it in my box already to cut. So I just keep a little note thing that says, do a video on this. So what they do is, these people that they come to me, they've had an awakening. They even may be teaching non-duality. They may be non-dual teachers. And they'll come to me and they'll do an awakening session. Sometimes they'll write me to want to come to me with a clarity session, but I can tell they're not awake to their true nature right now. And that's the only way you get to meet me, in a clarity session. And it's pretty much probably going to be if you woke up through me, but there are exceptions. But the ones who are exceptions know they are the exceptions. They know they're very, very clear, and they just want to talk, right? They do, because, I mean, if nothing else, I have a fairly unique experience in the sense that I'm at the hub of a teaching that has thousands of followers. And I talk to them all the time, right? I'm in session every day, but Saturday. I tried to take Mondays off, and I'm having to come out of Monday retirement because there's no room. And I'm not willing yet to shrink the teaching. I've been working for years to grow the teaching. Now that the teaching has outgrown me, I'd rather come up with other options rather than to diminish it. And I don't know, my teachers may end up become an extension of that. I just have no idea, because I've never had any idea. I've always had the pull to expand this teaching. And early on, I was being pulled so fast, so far, that it looked like I was pushing. And there was egotism in that. There's still egotism in it. I can't tell you that somebody sends me a wonderful, beautiful letter like I got this morning and posted on the website, by the way, about their awakening. I mean, God Almighty, this flutter, oh golly. And then it's recognized, oh, you old frog. It doesn't have anything to do with you. Shut up. Quit taking credit for something you didn't have anything to do with, or you're going to have to take the blame for stuff you didn't have anything to do with too. And I want all the credit, none of the blame. But I'm more adverse to credit, to blame, than I am drawn to praise. So it's just easier for me to just try not to claim. And I never do, just so you know. I mean, my mother-in-law, it drove her up a wall. She had seen me come out of nowhere. I mean, she saw me come off the streets in AA. And I wasn't off the streets more than 18 months before I met her. I met her daughter, Betsy, sometime before that. But the mother-in-law had seen me come out of nowhere and, become whatever it is I am. And she was very proud of that. She wanted to be proud, and she wanted to hear me be proud. She wanted me to accept the praise. And I just wouldn't do it. It would drive her crazy. Well, Betty, I really don't have anything to do with it. It's just, that's praise God if you want to praise something, because you don't praise this, for God's sake. It might, it'll get a full head. What you miss, if you're in this position, that's what I'm really doing this video for, is the people who are in this position. Number one, for the people who are not yet in this position, or not in this position, not even close, or whatever, you can know that this position exists. And the truth is if you wake up and you do not pursue it, then the odds are that this is the luckiest place you'll end up. There are some who actually, they find, they wake up with me and they go back and go back with their other teacher, which is fine. And they take this teaching and they apply it to that, and now they understand what the guy's talking about. And the guy or the woman needs to be careful, or the student is going to tell them what's going on. But you've forgotten who you really are. I swear to God. You are me. I am you. There's only this singular us. We can say us, but it's really I. There's only one I. It doesn't matter who says it or how many people say it. It's as true as we can get as far as counting, because I can't even find that I. That's the truth. I can't. There's a sense of being here, but I can't find an owner to it. Can you? Can you find an owner to this? I can't. So to be brought back to the sharp recognition that you felt 15 years ago, or 5 years ago, or 6 months ago, to be brought back to that sharp experiential recognition is just a godsend. Because now you've got tremendous context, and you've already had an awakening before, and you know that when I tell you that this thing can go away, I'm telling the truth. And I will tell you that I have had conversation with, oh, Fred, I could never unsee this. And then 2 months later, there's an email. What happened when we worked together? And you pursue it. You don't have to pursue it with me. Go pursue it through your own teaching. But come here and find out what your teaching is all about. Find out if you're religious, come find out what your tradition is based on. Because they're not going to tell you. I promise you that, because they don't know. They really don't. Very, very few of them know. What they're doing is they're reading scripture, and they're having personal insights, and they're sharing that with the crowd. And it may be good-hearted, and it may be not, and it may be black-hearted, but that's what they're doing. It's not from their present experience. And when I say present experience, that's exactly what I'm talking about, but I'm talking about Awakeness's present experience, not Fred's. There's no Fred. So do you think it's possible, since there's no Fred, that that Fred could have a deeper spiritual awakening today? No, there's no Fred. And there's no Bob or Nancy or Carol or whatever your name is. There's no one there either. So what are the odds of you, since there's no you there, if there's no Bob or Carol, is there any way that a Bob or a Carol can have an enlightenment experience today, can have a spiritual awakening today? No. So I'm not talking to units here. Most teachings, what I notice is that the awakened unit is teaching the unawakened units, trying to get I'm the awakened unit, and I'm trying to get these poor slow people to understand what I know, to know what I know. So, what I'm trying to do is to help you to fall off the cliff and not know what I don't know, because I don't know squat, and I'm not looking to learn anything, not in a conventional way. I read all the time, but I just do it because I can't not, right? If you are in this situation, consider your options very, very strongly, because you can not only do much deeper service to others, but you can do a deeper service to yourself, and which I mean awakeness. You can, because the memory is nice, but it's a unit's memory. It's the unit's memory. It's the character's memory, and there's no character, but it's the character's memory anyway. Paradox, sorry. That bubble of self-reflection is when Fred comes to recognize, there's no Fred. How about that? Wow, I've read that and everything, and now I believe that. It sure feels like I'm a damn body. I swear it does, right? That's the experience, is it not? And it's like, oh, I'm just clear about this, but then I hit a wall. And that you will hit that wall because everybody is exactly as awake as they're supposed to be right now. You can take as much of this thing as you can stand on any given day. But it's not information that I bring. It is presentation. If you're interested in seeing the way that presentations like that unfold, then go look at the book Awaken Now and the book of Undoing. Undoing was written first. Awaken Now was written later, after I'd done thousands of sessions. I had done scores of sessions when I wrote the book of Undoing, but thousands, not thousands of awakening sessions, but thousands of sessions, and 1,000, 1,500 awakening sessions. I don't know. I really don't. I'm not really keeping close score over here, but I'm aware that the numbers are becoming dizzying, right? And so find out where you really are. Have the balls, pardon me, but have the gumption to tell yourself the truth, because that's the hardest part. My hat is off to every spiritual teacher that has ever come to me, because it is harder from that position than any other, really, to come and say, I need help. But if it was to juice up your teaching, wouldn't it be worth it? Wouldn't it be worth a little humility? God Almighty. And here's the thing. I want you to understand something. It sounds like I'm drumming up awakening sessions, and I could give a shit less. I cannot absolutely, I have to come out of Monday retirement. I can't meet with everybody that wants to meet with me now. Even when I raise fees, which seems to usually slows things down a little bit, that's only temporary. So I cannot meet with everybody. So only come to me if you feel really pulled. If it's I think I might kind of meet with Fred, maybe you'd have something to share, stay away. So I'm not trying to get those of you who are on the fence off the fence. I'm just trying to put suggestions out there for myself, because that's what I work with. I don't work with units. I don't work with characters. I work with myself and myself only, because that's all that there is. There's you and only you. There's me and only me. That you and that me happen to be exactly the same thing. What's looking out of these eyes is the same thing that's listening to Fredness. It's the exact same consciousness. And I'm presently a cardinal at the bird feeder, and I'm a salmon swimming up water in British Columbia, and and I'm a shark in the ocean. Just the one consciousness. So the way out of the whatever, it doesn't make any difference whether you're a teacher or not. Just as a spiritual seeker, tell yourself the truth, which is, I really don't know who I am right now. Trust me, there's no one who used to be enlightened, and there's no one who will be enlightened in the future. Enlightenment is about right now, right here, right now only. So if that's your experience, wonderful. Welcome home. I'm so glad to have you here. Come to satsang, because I've got some people in there who this is their experience, but they love to come to satsang because they love the power and the humor and love of community. Come to satsang, come to satsang. I've been saying that now for years and years, and just one of these days, you're going to be able to tell yourself the truth, which is that you don't actually know what to do next, right? And then do that. See you later. Bye-bye. God almighty, I can't get this thing cut off to save my life.